Hello everyone. In the previous lecture, we have already studied the inventory model, which was called the model 1. And in that model, we have seen that the shortages were not allowed. Today we will see the second inventory model where the shortages are allowed. Now, as we have already seen, when we study the model, there are certain assumptions that we have to consider. So, for the second model where the shortages are allowed, the assumption 1, assumption 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, all these assumptions are same as we have taken them for the model 1. Okay, now you can clearly see here only the second assumption is changing for the model 2, and that is for the model 2, for inventory model 2, the second assumption is shortages are allowed and back orders are entertained. So, what is the meaning of shortages are allowed and the back orders are entertained? That means as soon as the required number of units arrive in the inventory, the back orders are instantaneously satisfied. Okay, so the thing is like, suppose we have certain amount of goods in the inventory. As the orders come, we supply the goods and then the inventory level goes to 0. But at that point, suppose if we get more orders, then at that particular time we will have no more goods left in the inventory in order to satisfy those orders. So those orders are kept with us and they are called as the back orders, because we don't have the required amount of goods in our inventory in order to satisfy those orders, and hence they will be called as back orders. And therefore we say that in this model shortages are allowed and the back orders are entertained. So the second assumption will be this. Okay, and the remaining 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, all these assumptions will be the same as we have seen for model 1. Now let us understand this model and evaluate all the quantities like average inventory level, what is the economic order quantity, okay, by taking help of this diagram. So as you can see here, in this case, the total time period of 1 year is divided into n equal parts, each of length t. Okay, each of length small t. So you can see here, from this point to this point is the total time period, which is 1 year. Okay, that total period is divided into n equal parts. The first part is here. Okay, so this is the time t, then this is 2t, here it is 2t, then there will be 3t, 4t and so on, and at the end it is n into t. Okay, so n into t is nothing but 1 year. So this full period t is divided into n equal parts. Okay, now let us understand how it is divided into T1 and T2. Okay, so in this case, from here to here it is time T. From here to here it is time 2T. Okay, 3T, 4T, and that is NT. Now when I say that from here to here it is T, that T is equal to T1 plus T2, where during the time T1 items are drawn from the inventory as needed, while during the time T2 the back orders are accumulated but not fulfilled. Okay, so it is like, suppose this is full time T. Okay, and during the time T1 what happens is, whatever goods we have in the inventory, they will get over. But now the goods are over and we have allowed the shortages. That means what? Even when the goods are over, we will take the orders and they will be kept as the back orders. Okay, so our time period is T. Okay, but after T1, time T1, goods will get over, but there is still some time left for the time T to get over, that is this time T2. So over this period of time, what we will do is, we will accumulate the back orders and keep them. Okay, and that will be over the time T2, which will lead us here. You can understand this in another way also. Okay, suppose over this time T, okay, let us consider that time T here down. Then if you look at this triangle, okay, you can very well relate it to model 1. So what will this tell you? It will tell you that initially the quantity in the inventory should be this Q, and as we get the orders, we supply the goods, and the goods will decrease and they will come to level 0 at the time T. Okay, and then again at the time T, again the inventory is replenished, meaning it is filled instantaneously. So again from here it will go up to Q, level Q. Okay, so you can think of that as this big triangle, but in this case what is happening is, we have allowed the shortages. So what happens is, after certain amount of time T1, the inventory will get over, but we will accumulate the back orders and then keep them. Okay, so this T is equal to T1 plus T2. Now at the end of time T, so this is a period T. So I have clearly said what happens during time T1 and what happens during time T2. Now at the end of time T, that means at this point, what happens is, the amount Q, meaning Q amount of the goods, are procured or produced. Okay, so at this time Q amount of the goods are produced and they are put in this inventory. Now if we are putting the Q amount of the goods inventory, immediately you can see that Q2 amount is used in order to satisfy the back orders, and the remaining Q1 amount is put in the inventory. So this Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2, where Q1 goes into the inventory, that is this, it goes into the inventory, while Q2 is immediately taken to satisfy the back orders. Okay, because these were the back orders, they required these many goods and we were falling short of them during the time T, during the time T2. Okay, so at the end of time T, when the goods come, Q2 amount of the goods, meaning whatever amount of the goods is used in order to satisfy the back orders, that amount is called as Q2 in this case. Okay, it is up to us what name we want to give. So we have given it the name Q2. Okay, so this total amount is Q, but Q2 amount is used to satisfy the back orders and Q1 amount is kept in the inventory. Okay. Now there is one more thing which will come into the picture here, that is something called as the shortage cost. So what is this shortage cost? It is the cost that comes into the effect so as to account for customer dissatisfaction. And this cost is estimated per unit time. Okay, so let us give the notation C2 to this cost. So let C2 be equal to shortage cost per unit year. Sorry, per year I should say, not the unit. Okay, so C2 is a shortage cost per unit per year. And note that the definitions of D, C1, CS and N are same as for model 1. Okay, so in addition to these definitions, in this case we will have to add one more definition, that is C2, which is a shortage cost. And what is the format of that? It will be the shortage cost per unit per year. Okay, so this shortage cost comes into the effect because of the customer dissatisfaction. That means customer gave us the order at this point of time, but because we had no goods in the inventory, we couldn't satisfy that order, and therefore the customer is not satisfied. So for that, whatever the penalty, like you can say it, okay, so for whatever cost comes into the effect due to that factor is called as the shortage cost. So now we are ready with all the construction here. So now we can calculate all the quantities. So total inventory over time period T is equal to, what will be the total inventory during the time period T? This is the time period T. And what is the total inventory over this period? Total inventory is only this much. Okay, because whatever is you can see here, these we don't have the goods in the inventory, we have accumulated the back orders. And here what we are calculating? Total inventory over the time period T. So over this time period the inventory will be only this, which is equal to area of triangle A, B, C, A, B and C, that is equal to half, this length will be T1 into this. And what is this? This full is Q, but this one we have said it is Q2 and this is Q1. So this will be half T1 into Q1. Okay, then average inventory over time t is equal to T1, that means this quantity divided by this time T. Okay, so that will be T1 Q1 by 2 divided by T. So it is this. Okay, then average inventory at any time during the year is equal to the same thing. It will be Q1 by 2 into T, because all the triangles are congruent to each other. All these triangles, they will be congruent to each other, and therefore what we can say is average inventory at any time during the year will be equal to that quantity. The next is annual inventory holding cost will be equal to, okay, so from among these, inventory holding cost is the C1. Okay, so what does the C1 represent? C1 means the inventory holding cost for per unit per year. Okay, that means for the entire time period. For holding 1 unit, that is cost C1. Okay, and we want to calculate the annual inventory holding cost. So if suppose there is one good, then it is the cost C1, but how many amount of the items are there with us? Average, it is this. So the annual inventory holding cost will be the total amount of the total inventory into the cost C1. So that will come out to be, this is working very similar way like how we did it for model 1. So this will be nothing but T1 Q1 by 2 into T into C1. Okay, so then next will be total shortage over time period T. So if suppose this is the time period T, then what is the total shortage during this time period? That is nothing but only this much, which is equal to area of the triangle CEF. Okay, so that is equal to area of triangle CEF, which will be equal to half. So this will be T1 into Q2. T1 into Q2. Sorry, T2, that is the time T2, half T2 into Q2. Next, we will calculate average shortage during time period T. Okay, so the total shortage over the time period T is this. What will be the average shortage? It is this total shortage divided by this time T. So that will be equal to Q2 T2 divided by 2 into this T. Okay. Next is average shortage at any time during the year. That will also come out to be the same one, as we have seen that those triangles are congruent to each other. Now annual shortage cost will be equal to, okay, the shortage cost we have seen that is C2. Okay, so for one particular good or one particular unit, okay, the shortage cost is C2 per year. So if suppose there is a shortage of these many amount of the goods, then what will be the shortage cost? It will be those number of the goods into C2. Okay, for one it is C2, for these many amount of the good, for these many goods it will be this number, that is Q2 T2 by 2T into C2. Now annual setup cost, we have already seen that for per unit it is CS. Then for the annual setup cost will be what? Those amount of the goods, that is N into CS, where what is N? N is nothing but D by Q into CS. I said for one unit, it is not for the unit, but the setup cost is for the production run. Okay, so how many production runs we have? In this case also we have n production runs. Okay, we have divided the entire time period into n equal parts. Okay, so for one production run it is CS, then for these many how much it will be? N into CS, N into CS, and N is nothing but D by Q into this CS. Next is total annual cost, that is CA. Okay, so this CA will be equal to total annual cost. Previously for model 1 we were adding, for total, to find the total annual cost we had to add only the holding cost and the setup cost, but in this case we will also have to add the shortage cost. So total three different costs we will have to add in order to obtain the total annual cost. So first we will add the shortage cost, which is equal to T2 Q2 by 2T into C2. Then we will add the holding cost, which is T1 Q1 2T into C1, and then we will also add the setup cost, which is D by Q into CS. So this becomes our total annual cost. Now we will use some of the triangle properties and we will try to replace the quantities T2 by T, T1 by T in terms of Q1 and Q. Okay, so if you observe here, the triangle ABC, this triangle ABC and the triangle ADE. Okay, so it is this small triangle and then this big triangle. These two triangles are similar and therefore T by T1, that means this T by this T1, okay, will be, I can say that this is equal to this Q by this, sorry, yes, this Q by this Q1. Okay, or in other words I can say that this T1 by T, so it will be T1 by T will be equal to this Q1 by this q, q1 by this q. So T1 by T can be replaced by Q1 by Q. This we are doing by using the similarity property of these triangles. So now this expression CA, we can write it as T2, T1 by T, we can replace it by Q1 by Q. So that will be Q1 into Q1 square, okay, into this C1 divided by, this will be 2Q, plus similarly you can also see that the triangle AEG, okay, so if I consider this triangle and this small triangle, these two triangles are also similar, and hence we can say that this Q2 by Q can be equal to this T2 by this T. Okay, so if this is T, you can see that this is also T. So it is T2 by this T and Q2 by this Q, by using the similarity property of the triangles. So in this case, this T2 T, I will replace it by Q2 Q. So we will get Q2 square into C2 by 2Q plus D by Q CS. But we also know that Q2 is equal to Q minus Q1, okay, because this is Q, Q1 plus Q2 is Q, so Q2 can be written as Q minus Q1, and hence we will get Q1 square C1 by 2Q plus this, I can write it as Q minus Q1 square C2 by 2Q plus D by Q into CS. So this Q minus Q1, a minus b the whole square formula we have to use, and after using that divide this by 2Q. So that will be Q square divide by 2Q, we will be left with Q by 2. Then Q1 square divide by 2Q, that will be Q1 square divide by 2Q, and minus 2Q into Q1 divide by 2Q. So that will be minus Q1, because 2Q and will get cancelled, into this C2 plus D by Q CS. Now after this, the idea is same as we have applied for the model 1. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to minimize this total annual cost. So for that, first we will have to find out for what value of Q this will be minimized, that is we want to find out this economic order quantity. Okay, and if we determine, what we will have to do is we will have to determine this Q and either Q1 or Q2. Okay, then only we will know what should be the size of this. Okay, we want to know, if we know this size, we should also know either this or this. Okay, so it is not just enough to know what is the size of q. Okay, so we will find out what is this q and q1, and then it is easy to calculate q2, because then q2 will be equal to q minus q1. So here what we do is we differentiate this partially with respect to q. Okay, now what is this partial differentiation? In model 1 we had the quantity Ca and we differentiated it with respect to q. Okay, q was the variable. When I explained model 1, I told you all relate it to the function f of x. Okay, and suppose it is x square, then how do you differentiate it with respect to x? Okay, because f of x is a function of x. So in a similar way, here this Ca, this quantity is a function of q and q1. Okay, there are two variables. So to understand it in a better way, take it this way. Suppose f is the name of the function. It is a function of one variable, that is x, that is x square. Now suppose you see here, f is the name of the function. It is a function of two variables, y, x and y. Okay, and how the function looks like? It has this format. Okay, so when I say I want to differentiate this particular f, I have to mention with respect to which variable. Okay, whereas in this case, suppose if I want to differentiate this f, it is already understood that I am differentiating f with respect to x, because there is only, this is depending only on one variable. But if I want to differentiate this f, I have to say with respect to which variable, that is either x or y. And when there are more than one variable, we don't call it as d, we put some symbol called as do. Okay, because it is the partial derivative. So we can differentiate this f partially with respect to x, and also we can differentiate it with respect to y. Okay, so for this function, how do you differentiate it partially with respect to x? That means you have to take this and differentiate it with respect to x, and while doing so, you have to treat y as a constant term. Okay, so if I take this and differentiate it with respect to x, so the derivative will be 2x, because y is treated as a constant and the derivative of constant is 0. Now I want to differentiate this with respect to y. So if I want to differentiate with respect to y, treat the terms with x, treat x as a constant one. Okay, so what will be the derivative of this? It will be equal to 1, because derivative of y with respect to y is 1 and x square is treated as a constant term. Suppose the function was x into y square, then the derivative with respect to x will be y square, because if I treat this as some constant, what is the derivative of this term? It will be nothing but that constant. Okay, then derivative of this, partial differentiation of this with respect to y will be, keep x as it is because it is a constant, then differentiate y square with respect to y, that will be 2 into y, so that is 2xy. Okay, so that is how this partial derivative works. And in our case, this Ca, it is a function of two variables, one is q and the other one is q1. So I am partially differentiating this function Ca with respect to q first, and then we will differentiate it with respect to q1. Okay, So how do I differentiate with respect to q? While doing this, I will treat q1 as a constant function, constant one. Okay, so first differentiate this with respect to q. So what it will be, all these are constants, so I'm going to write them as it is, q1 square c1 by 2. Now I have to differentiate 1 upon q with respect to q. So what is the derivative of 1 upon q with respect to q? It will be minus 1 upon q square. So that will be minus q square plus, now if you have understood how the partial derivative works, we can differentiate this quickly. So this will be, c2 will remain, it's a constant. What is the derivative of this with respect to q? It is nothing but half. Derivative of this will be q1 square by 2, constant will remain as it is, minus 1 upon q square, minus q1 is treated as a constant. So derivative of this with respect to q will be nothing but 0. Okay, plus d and cs are the constants. Derivative of 1 upon q will be minus 1 upon q square. So next what we do is take this quantity and equate it to 0. So while doing this, we will have to take this full quantity and equate it to 0. So that will be, I'm this full quantity equal to 0. So I will take this on the other side, even this quantity on the other side here also. So that will become positive, and on the LHS c2 by 2 will remain. Okay, so we will get like c2 by 2 equal to q1 square c1 by 2q square plus q1 square c2 by 2q square plus dcs by q square. Okay, we can simplify this. We can multiply the full equation by 2q square. So what will happen? c2q square equal to q1 square c1 plus 1 square c2 plus 2dcs. So when we equate it to 0, next thing what we do? We find out the values of q. What are the values of q? So this is a quadratic equation wherein c2q square minus but because there are no terms here, we can directly write it as q is equal to c2, take it on in the denominator, and we have q square. So to find out q, I will have to take the square root. So this divided by c2, we will get q1 square c1 plus 2dcs by c1 plus q1 square root of this full quantity. Okay, so q is equal to this. We will consider the positive root, and because q is nothing but that amount of those many amount of the goods, so they cannot be negative, so we will be considering the positive value. So now we have to check for this value of q what happens to CA. Okay, whether it attains the minimum or the maximum. Okay, But before that, we will also differentiate this Ca with respect to Q1. So you can see that we have already got the value of Q to be equal to this. Okay, now we will differentiate Ca. We will differentiate Ca with respect to Q1, because as I have told you, this Ca is a function of two variables. One is Q and the other one is Q1. Okay, so we have already differentiated it with respect to Q. Now we will differentiate it with respect to Q1. Okay, so take this expression and differentiate it with respect to Q1. While doing so, we will treat Q as a constant one. Constant. Okay, so differentiate this with respect to Q1. So what it will be? This and this, those are constants, so they will remain as it is. Okay, so that will be C1 by 2Q, and differentiate Q1 square with respect to Q1, so that will be 2 into Q1, so 2 will get cancelled. Q1 C1 by 2, so we will get Q1 C1 by Q, that 2 will get cancelled. Okay, next Q by 2, differentiating that with respect to Q1, that will be equal to 0, because we are treating Q as constant. Okay, and the derivative of constant will be equal to 0. Now here, differentiating this term with respect to Q1, so that will be, this will remain as a constant, that is 2Q. Differentiating Q1 square with respect to Q1 will be 2 into Q1, 2 into Q1. Then differentiating minus Q1 with respect to Q1 will be minus 1, which is minus 1, and into the constant C2. Then differentiating this term with respect to Q1, because Q is a constant and these two are also constants, derivative of this with respect to Q1 is 0. So we are left with dou Ca by dou Q1 equal to this quantity. The next step is equate this quantity to 0. Okay, then this is C2 into minus 1. So it is minus C2. We can take it on the other side. It will become C2. Then after cancelling out the common terms, we will be left with this expression. Then you can clearly see from here, this is nothing but Q1 by Q. We can take it common. It will be C1 plus C2. Q1 by Q into C1 plus C2 equal to C2. Then that we can take it on the other side. We will get this, which on simplification becomes this. Then what we have to do is, we have to check the double derivative of Ca with respect to Q and this with respect to Q1. Okay, like how we do it for this, we check the double derivative, right? We write what is this double derivative, evaluate it at the point x equal to x naught and check the sign of this. If it is greater than 0, we say that x equal to x naught is a point of minima, and if it is less than 0, we say that x equal to x naught is a point of maxima. Okay, so in this case, because the function is depending on two variables, we have to check double derivative of with respect to Q1 and also the double derivative with respect to Q, and we also have to check the derivative, the partial derivative with respect to Q1 and Q. Okay, I will tell you all what this quantity is, but let us first see how to calculate this. So double derivative of Ca with respect to Q. So what is this? We have already found out what is dou Ca by dou Q. Okay, so again differentiate this full quantity again with respect to Q, then we will get the double derivative. Okay, and similarly we already have this quantity, we have to again differentiate it with respect to Q1, and then we will get this quantity. Okay, so those two expressions come out to be equal to this, and what we will have to do is we will have to check. So our Q1 value is this and Q value is this after equating this to 0 and this to 0. Okay, so we have got Q and Q1. So we check this quantity and this quantity evaluated at Q and the Q1. Okay, so when Q is equal to this and Q1 is equal to this, and we put them in these quantities, you can clearly see that these two are positive. Okay, because Q cube, okay, that means this here, this quantity, the cube of this, that will become definitely a positive quantity because all these are the positive numbers. Okay, these are the costs and this is the demand, that means how many goods are ordered, and these quantities cannot take the negative value, and because of that reason you can clearly see that this quantity and this quantity, when evaluated for Q equal to this and Q1 equal to this, they will be positive. Okay, now let us see how to calculate this quantity. So we already have this with us, that is partially differentiating Ca. We already have partially differentiating Ca with respect to Q, okay, which is equal to this. Now I will take this and differentiate it again with respect to Q1. Okay, so that is written as Q1. Okay, so first you take Ca, differentiate it with respect to Q, and then whatever you get, that you again differentiate with respect to Q1. Okay, that quantity will be called as this, and it is called as mixed partial derivative. The word mix is because we are differentiating with two different variables, once with Q1 and then with Q. Okay, or maybe you can differentiate first with respect to Q and then with respect to Q1. Suppose if we take this, which is differentiated with respect to Q, now we will have to differentiate it with respect to Q1. So what will happen to this term? We will have to treat Q as a constant because we are differentiating with respect to Q1. So it will be C1 to Q2 into derivative of this quantity with respect to Q1, that will be minus 2Q1. Okay, that is minus 2Q1 C1 by 2Q square. Okay, then differentiating this with respect to Q1, it is a constant, so that will go to 0. Differentiating this with respect to Q1 will be equal to what? Minus 2Q1 into C2 divided by 2 into Q square. Then differentiating this with respect to Q1 will be 0 because we treat Q as a constant and all this thing is a constant, so derivative with respect to Q1 is 0. So we are left with this quantity equal to this. And now what we do is we multiply this into this minus this. So after doing that, we get the quantity to be equal to this, that is q1 square c1 by q cube plus q1 square c2 divided by q cube plus 2dcs by q cube into c1 by q plus c2 by q plus q1 c1 by q square plus q1 c2 by q square. And we evaluate this particular quantity for the value of q equal to this and q1 equal to this. Now in this case, why we have to do all these steps? The reason is, let us first understand what we do it for the one variable case. So if f of x is a function of x, okay, then to check maxima minima, what we do? We find out f dash of x and equate it to 0. Then we get the values of x equal to some x0, x1, we get some points. Okay, then what we do? We find out the double derivative, and in this double derivative we put the value of x0 and check the sign, if it is greater than 0 or it is less than 0, whatever it is. Then depending on this, we decide whether the point x0 is a point of maxima or minima. But now in this case we have the function f which is depending on two variables, okay, and our function name is CA. It is depending on q and q1. Okay, so here what we do is we first differentiate it with respect to the first variable, then we differentiate it with respect to the second variable. We make this equal to 0, put this equal to 0. Like how we get here the value of x0, value of x, here we will get the values of q, and here we will get the values of q1. Okay, then what we do is, like how we take the second derivative, here we take the second derivative. So we take the second derivative with respect to q, second derivative with respect to q1, and as well as, because there are two variables, we will also have to take the mixed partial derivative, mixed derivative. Okay, so once we get this, in this case what we do? We evaluate this quantity at the point x0 and check its value. Okay, but here what we have to do is we have to evaluate this quantity